Story title: The Priest That Fell in Love with a Young Girl. The soft chimes of the cathedral bells echoed through the small town, a familiar and comforting sound to all who lived there. Father Jonathan, a man of deep faith and gentle spirit, had served as the cathedral's priest for over a decade. His dedication to his parish was unwavering, and the townsfolk admired him for his wisdom and kindness. But beneath his calm exterior, a storm was brewing. Father Jonathan had always believed his path was set. Raised in a devout Catholic family, his parents, Margaret and Thomas, had always dreamed of their son becoming a priest. They had dedicated their lives to the church and had instilled in Jonathan a deep sense of duty and faith from a young age. When he first expressed his desire to join the priesthood, his parents were overjoyed. They saw it as the ultimate fulfillment of their hopes and dreams for him, and Jonathan, wanting nothing more than to make them proud, pursued the calling with all his heart. It all began when Emily, a young woman from the town, started volunteering at the cathedral. She was bright, full of life, and had a warmth about her that drew people in. Emily had recently returned to town after finishing her studies in the city, and she wanted to give back to the community that had raised her. Her presence in the cathedral was like a breath of fresh air, bringing new energy to the old stone walls. Father Jonathan found himself drawn to her. At first, it was her dedication to helping others that caught his attention. She organized charity events, visited the sick, and always had a kind word for those in need. But soon, it was more than just her good deeds that captivated him. Her laughter echoed in his mind long after she had left, and he found himself eagerly awaiting her visits. As the weeks passed, Father Jonathan struggled with his feelings. He knew the vows he had taken, the commitment he had made to his faith and his community. Yet, every time he saw Emily, those vows felt like chains, binding him to a life that suddenly felt incomplete. He spent sleepless nights wrestling with his emotions, praying for guidance, but the answer he sought never came. Complicating matters was the thought of his parents. They had sacrificed so much to see him succeed in his religious vocation, and he knew how deeply they cherished his position as a priest. The idea of disappointing them weighed heavily on his heart. How could he tell them that the life they had envisioned for him no longer felt right? That the calling he had once embraced with such fervor now felt like a burden? One evening, after a particularly moving charity event organized by Emily, Father Jonathan found himself alone with her in the cathedral. The candles cast a warm glow on the ancient stone, and the air was thick with the scent of incense. Emily was tidying up, and as Father Jonathan watched her, he felt an overwhelming urge to speak. "Emily," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "there's something I need to say." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with concern. "What is it, Father Jonathan? You can tell me anything." He took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. I have feelings for you, feelings that I shouldn't have, but I can't deny them any longer." Emily was silent for a moment, processing his words. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle. "I care about you too, Jonathan, but you're a priest. What does this mean for you?" Father Jonathan sighed, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. "I don't know," he admitted. "All I know is that my heart is torn. I've spent my life serving the church, but now I wonder if my true calling is something else. My parents, they wanted this for me so much. I'm afraid of what they'll think if I walk away from it all." 4 days after their conversation, Father Jonathan secluded himself in prayer and reflection. He sought counsel from his bishop, who, while understanding, reminded him of the sacred vows he had taken. But in the quiet moments, away from the eyes of the world, Jonathan knew he had already made his decision. The thought of facing his parents was terrifying. He imagined their disappointment, the questions they would ask, the sense of failure he feared they might feel. But deep down, he also knew that continuing to live a lie would be a greater betrayal, not just to himself, but to the values they had instilled in him: honesty, integrity, and the courage to follow one's true path. One Sunday morning, Father Jonathan stood before his congregation, his heart pounding in his chest. The pews were filled with familiar faces, people who had looked up to him, trusted him. He knew that what he was about to say would shock them, perhaps even disappoint them, but he also knew it was the truth. "My dear friends," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside, "for many years, I have had the privilege of serving as your priest. It has been the greatest honor of my life. But I stand before you today to tell you that I can no longer continue in this role. My heart has led me down a different path, one that I must follow, even though it means leaving the priesthood." A murmur of shock ran through the crowd, but Jonathan continued, his eyes searching for Emily, who sat quietly in the back. "I have fallen in love with someone from our community, and I believe that my future lies with her. I hope you can understand and forgive me." After the service, there was a mixture of reactions. Some were supportive, others confused or disappointed. But Jonathan knew he had made the right choice. He found Emily outside the cathedral, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "I don't know what the future holds," he said softly, "but I know that I want to face it with you." Emily smiled, a mixture of relief and joy washing over her. "I'm with you, Jonathan, wherever this path leads." Father Jonathan left the priesthood and married Emily in a small, private ceremony. Though his life took a different turn, he never lost his faith. Instead, he found new ways to serve his community, alongside the woman he loved. When he finally told his parents, their initial reaction was one of shock and sadness. But over time, they came to see that Jonathan was truly happy, and that, more than anything, brought them peace. In the end, Father Jonathan discovered that true devotion isn't just about following the path laid out for you. It's about having the courage to follow your heart, even when it leads you into the unknown. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and share. If you are impressed, subscribe.